Yo, Julius, it's your girl Raven Shannon, the Omen. Just want to give you a big shout out here from the UK. And Ring IQ, you're the man. Thanks so much for your support.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Is anybody decent? Those are just some of the things she said. You bring nothing to the table. You're not a mandatory. Who are you? She's not looking backwards. She's moving forward. So that's what she said about you. What do you want to respond?
Every time I hear her voice, I just think, oh, like she's a grub, honestly. For her, everything she said is wrong. Like even, I mean, people have said to me, for one, oh yeah, but you know, it's through COVID. She went overseas and she made it for herself. Sorry, but you don't just turn up on Eddie Hearn's door knocking, saying, here's my resume. I'm available to fight. Like she's a scrub. She's a grub. She did it in a way, like for me, and I've said this before, morals over money. I've got a 16-year-old son. Imagine him going to school and all his mates passing around a photo of me in my lingerie on the scales. I've also got a 14-year-old daughter, and I think this is even worse, like teaching her that I'll just get your clothes off and you can get what you want, because that's what she did. And I mean, she fought Shannon Courtney with a 6-0 record that was pretty bad. Like her fight before that, she went the distance with someone that she should have stopped. She debuted in a 3-round fight and got dropped in the first round, but still won. Which I don't know. I'm not that great at maths, but calculations say best case scenario that's a draw. I mean, I was the number one in the IBF before she got that shot, and we were chasing it. But my injury, I wouldn't have been ready for much. So I was due to fight. I would have been fighting Roman if Roman won. But the way the IBF is because there's a new champion, the mandatory date then gives 12 months. So by March, she has to fight me.
It appears that Shotgun Shannon O'Connell has finally caught wind of some of Ebony Bridges' recent comments on a recent interview I conducted with her. Her thoughts on her countrywoman Shotgun Shannon O'Connell, call out of Sugar Neeks, the reigning IBF Super Bantamweight champion, and you heard what Shannon O'Connell had to say. Ebony's supporters, they immediately came to her defense and raised some very valid points of their own. In truth, both Shotgun Shannon O'Connell and Ebony Bridges have supporters. They both have fans, and I like the both of them as fighters, albeit for different reasons.
So I'm going to give it to you straight.
Because it's the only way I know how to give it to you. When a professional fighter, a veteran, goes as far as saying that she wouldn't even use you for sparring.
That's what Shannon O'Connell said last year.
This was before Ebony Bridges won the IBF title, before she became a champion.
And when you're being criticized by that same veteran for what you're wearing to a weigh-in...
I don't know what anybody's expecting Ebony Bridges to wear to these weigh-ins. A burlap sack? A poncho?
They want she should drape herself in a garbage bag?
But when you're often criticized by the likes of Shotgun Shannon O'Connell, not just your countrywoman, but a seasoned veteran in the sport, one of the familiar faces in the domestic Australian boxing scene.
Shannon is one of many individuals who like to criticize Ebony Bridges for what she wears to a weigh-in, anything from her weigh-in apparel to how she drinks a coffee.
When those who criticized you on your way up towards becoming the most recognizable fighter, the most recognizable face in today's bantamweight division, and not just a recognizable face, but a champion, a reigning world champion, when those who criticized you are now looking for an opportunity, looking for a shot.
Shannon O'Connell often says morals over money.
But what did Ebony Bridges actually do that qualifies as being immoral? Wear lingerie to a weigh-in? She was going to be in her bra and panties anyway.
It's a weigh-in, for Christ's sake.
The way I see it, short of an order from the IBF, an actual mandate, mandating that Ebony Bridges fight Shotgun Shannon O'Connell, Ebony's not just going to give her that opportunity, not voluntarily. She's going to make her wait as long as she can.
And don't misunderstand me, I'm a boxing fan. I'm a boxing fan first.
I love the fight.
I'm not against it.
Domestic rivalries often make for great fights, really, really great fights.
But I've been telling you from the beginning, Ebony Bridges isn't going to do Shotgun Shannon O'Connell or anybody else any favors.
Because they didn't do her any favors.
You're either going to look at this from both angles, both sides, or you're not.
I'm not against the fight. I understand that Shannon O'Connell wants to fight for the blue belt. She wants to fight Ebony Bridges for the IBF title. I understand that she was ranked as their number one contender for a very long time, but I also understand what she said herself. She would have challenged Maria Cecilia Roman if not for the injury she suffered. She was unable to compete. So how is that Ebony Bridges' problem?
How is that Ebony Bridges' fault?
It's not. And you two aren't on each other's Christmas card list. You ain't bosom buddies. Ebony's not going to do you any favors. So you're going to have to wait until the IBF finally decides to order that fight. Or get your team to put the squeeze on them and pressure them to order it until Ebony doesn't have a choice but to fight you. Because for the time being,
you might be the number one contender, and you may be in a pole position to become her mandatory challenger.
but the fight hasn't been mandated yet. No such order has come down from the IBF ordering Ebony to fight Shannon O'Connell. So for the time being, she's free to roam, free to move around and negotiate whatever fights she wants to negotiate. And that's not me running interference. That's the situation. That's what's going on, and that's why.
Shannon O'Connell's not just number one by way of the IBF, she's also number one by way of the WBA.
And I don't see Team O'Connell pushing for a Jamie Mitchell fight quite as hard as they're pushing for an Ebony Bridges fight. Now, why do you think that is? Could it be because Ebony Bridges actually is with a major promotional outfit? An Ebony Bridges fight is worth more money than a Jamie Mitchell fight.
So is it really morals over money?
In a short amount of time, Ebony Bridges has done the legwork to become the most recognizable fighter with the most recognizable face and now the most recognizable champion in the bantamweight division. And it looks a lot like Shannon O'Connell, along with a lot of other people who criticized Ebony Bridges. It looks like they want to capitalize off her immoral success.
What the hell is so immoral?
What's immoral? What, that she swears like a sailor? That she wears lingerie to a weigh-in? Well, what the hell is she supposed to wear to a weigh-in?
They don't keep the energy for Jamie Mitchell that they keep for Ebony Bridges.
And let's not be coy about this. A fight with Ebony Bridges is a more high-profile fight than a fight with Jamie Mitchell. So ask yourself, why is it a more high-profile fight?
Is it because of all the legwork Ebony Bridges has put in?
Is it because she's fast made herself the most recognizable champion at this weight?
This is all about morality, then go with Jamie Mitchell.
Don't try and capitalize off Ebony Bridges' success from your moral high horse.
Because that's just intellectually dishonest.
In men's lightweight or super lightweight news or wherever the hell it is Ryan's campaigning these days, he says, I don't care about the belts. They don't matter.
Well, of course he's going to say the belts don't matter. Devin's got him.
He's never made any effort to take on Devin Haney. He could end up on his face, his back, on his side, on his knees. There are so many options. I leave it open because you've got to look at it truthfully. This guy could walk into a bunch of shit. Yeah. If I get a fight with Gervonta Davis, said Ryan, when asked if he would become a world champion in 2022, he has the WBA world. So I'll have some type of championship. The only way I can become champion at 135 is if I fight Devin.
Yeah, but you're not going to fight Devin, and you're not trying to fight Devin.
What you're trying to do is take a shortcut to the money. Let's not kid ourselves. Let's not beat around the bush. Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis commercially could very well put up bigger numbers than Spence versus Crawford.
Those two niche audiences, both guys' niche fan bases.
Ryan Garcia's followers, his fans, aren't primarily comprised of your traditional boxing fan. And the same is true of Gervonta Davis's followers, his supporters. Those aren't your run-of-the-mill fight fans either.
That's why they think he hails the moon and the stars for knocking off stiffs like Rolly Romero.
And Ryan Garcia, he's privy to this. He knows that. That's why he says, but again, I don't really care about the belts. I'm going to be honest with you. I care about who I beat and how I feel in my heart, and what that victory does for me. Beating Gervonta Davis would give me influence and power over the whole boxing community. Anybody that doubts that has to wait until after I beat him, because then they'll see what true power is. Belts don't matter in this game. What matters is if you put people in those seats, and if you're exciting and people want to watch you. That's it. The people decide who's the top dog. And that's it. Nobody cares about belts anymore. It's past that time. The belts mean nothing. They have no substance anymore. Anybody can get a belt. And yet, 41,000 Australians showed up to watch George Kambosos and Devin Haney fight for all the belts. So who's this nobody you're talking about?
1.5 million American homes tuned into that fight that was for all the belts.
41,000 Australians showed up. A little under 60,000 actually purchased the pay-per-view. A little under 60,000 bought the fight.
Tell you what, that's a lot of nobodies.
Devin Haney and George Kambosos Jr. separately, outside of that fight, that was for all the belts. Neither one of those two boys is all that big a draw, but they came together to fight for all the belts, and that's what drew the crowd out. That's what drew the people in. Yet according to Ryan, the belts don't matter, and anybody can get one. So why don't you go get Devin's? He's got all of them.
Yeah, if it's that easy to where anybody can get him, why don't you go get his?
The guy with the least substance on his professional record wants to harp about substance.
Get a load of this guy.
So I wouldn't mind it one bit if Javier Fortuna knocked Ryan Garcia's block off and put an end to all of this.
Don't confuse marquee value with actual substance.
Jake Paul actually brought in a couple of successful pay-per-views that brought in more buys than any of Gervonta Davis's fights.
So what are you telling me, that because he's more popular, he's a more legitimate boxer than Gervonta Davis, a more legitimate boxer than you?
A more legitimate boxer than a lot of legitimate boxers who don't have the same marquee value as a Jake Paul, haven't sold as many pay-per-views as he has. If you're trying to say that because a guy's got marquee value, he's also got substance...
Those two things are mutually exclusive, my friend, and what you're looking for is a shortcut.
You don't want the Devin Haney fight because you might lose that fight. You might lose the Gervonta Davis fight too, but you'll make more money losing to Gervonta than you would with Devin. So, in Ryan's mind, it's worth the risk.
With Gervonta Davis, it's a little different.
Maybe you pack enough of a punch that you could hurt Devin Haney and get him out of there. Maybe you do, but you don't want to run those risks finding out. Maybe you beat that guy, but maybe that guy beats you.
You don't think it's worth the risk?
More importantly, you can't afford him. Leonard Ellerby himself acknowledges that Devin Haney was making great money on the Matchroom side of things, and he just made more over there on Top Rank. Made himself a nice chunk of change and became his division's undisputed champion. So you can't pay him what you've been paying the Rolly Romeros and Isaac Cruzes of the world.
You can't pay him like he's hired help. He's an undisputed champion.
The reason the belts don't matter to either Ryan Garcia or Gervonta Davis is because they are essentially playing the same game. They don't want to prove that they're the best fighter in their respective weight classes, the best fighter in their divisions. They don't care about prestige and won't stand for ceremony.
They're not really competitors, you understand.
That's why Gervonta Davis has campaigned in 3 weight classes but hasn't faced the best fighters in any one of them.
He didn't fight the best super featherweight, the best lightweight, or the best super lightweight.
Ryan's resume's even worse. His resume's even more paper thin than Gervonta Davis. He's accomplished even less than he has.
Yeah, of course, Ryan's gonna say the belts don't matter when Devin Haney's got all of them.
While the good fighters, the real good fighters, top guys are all mixing it up at 135 pounds. What Ryan and Gervonta want to do is carve out a lane of their own, so they don't have to mix it up with those fighters.
They don't want to risk it with those guys. With Vasyl Lomachenko, with Devin Haney.
And wait till Shakur Stevenson moves up there. Wait till he gets to lightweight. You think they're gonna want a piece of that guy? They're not.
Ryan's just looking for a creative way to say that he doesn't feel the belts are worth the risks.
Because you have to risk something in order to get them. You know, Teofimo Lopez, he had to take on Vasyl Lomachenko, a guy widely regarded as a top 3 pound-for-pound fighter. George Kambosos, he had to risk his unbeaten record against Teofimo in order for a shot at greatness. And Devin Haney,
he had to venture into hostile territory. He had to go to the other guy's home turf for his shot at greatness.
without his father by his side to make excuses for him the way that Ryan's father makes excuses for him.
Whenever he decides to throw his toys out the pram.
The truth is that this is all about shortcuts. Shortcuts made possible by 2 niche audiences, 2 niche fan bases that don't necessarily represent your according to Hoyle boxing fan and all the traditional sentiments.
You know, aspiring to become a champion and beating the man to be the man.
Gervonta Davis ain't the man at lightweight. For beating who? Rolly Romero? Isaac Cruz? Yuriorkis Gamboa?
That's all you gotta do to beat a man at lightweight.
Get a bunch of crappy tattoos all over your body, knock over a couple of stiffs. That makes you the man at 135 pounds. That's it?
No, that's not it. It's a shortcut.
It's a shortcut. He's got fans and so do you. You get together, you make some money. But that don't make you the man at 135 pounds.
It's a shortcut is what it is.
A shortcut that Showtime executive Stephan Espinoza has been talking about. A potential Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia fight and how he's not inclined to work with DAZN.
Yeah, tell me something I don't know.
Espinoza makes it clear here that he doesn't have all that much interest in engaging DAZN in talks to make this fight, believing it can be made without the streaming platform's involvement since Ryan Garcia doesn't appear to be signed to an exclusive contract with the company. He also takes some subtle jabs about how DAZN has tried to scoop his fighters in the past and says now the tables have seemingly turned. Ryan Garcia is not exclusive to DAZN, Espinoza told Dan Canastota.
It's Canobio.
Espinoza said to Dan Cantaloupe, I know Golden Boy is, but the reality is it's an interesting and ironic change of events. They've spent 3 years trying to go around us to get every fighter that we have. Now, all of a sudden, they've figured out, hey, let's go to them. Look, I don't think that we need 2 platforms in this. I don't. I think there are plenty of other ways that are fair to resolve this.
First and foremost, a good number of the fighters that fight on Showtime aren't exclusive to Showtime.
You remember that speech Stephen Espinoza gave after Wilder turned down DAZN's $100 million offer about how he's loyal to Showtime? The very next fight, he floated over to Fox.
Both the Charlo brothers have fought on Fox, and Errol Spence Jr.
He did too. So what's this guy talking about? He's talking about Golden Boy has a deal with DAZN. I don't think Ryan Garcia personally has a deal with DAZN. I'm not an expert on that sort of aspect of it, but it's not as if they've signed Ryan Garcia to an exclusive contract. I mean, DAZN repeatedly said, here, we're going for Deontay Wilder, and we went to the Charlos, we went to Danny Garcia, we went to Thurman. It's all these guys because they aren't signed exclusively to Showtime. So why would you need to go to Showtime? Well, you know, shoe is on the other foot now. Why would we need to go to DAZN when DAZN hasn't signed Ryan exclusively?
Oh, so Stephen is acknowledging that DAZN has made offers to all those fighters.
You let those fighters' fans tell it, and all the offers were bogus, and they weren't serious. Sounds serious enough to me, serious enough that Stephen Espinoza brought it up. Better still, it sounds a lot like what Stephen Espinoza aspires to do is go around the DAZN platform.
But can he really do that, though?
You've heard Ryan Garcia say in the past that no one can stop him from fighting Gervonta Davis, not even Golden Boy Promotions.
It is Golden Boy as a promotional outfit that has the existing relationship with DAZN, though what it says in the fine print.
How much power does DAZN as a platform have over the Golden Boy Promotions stable? Does Ryan Garcia have the legal liberty to go over to Showtime if he wants to? Can he actually do that without repercussion, without consequence?
That's a legitimate question.
When I feel so inclined to ask, in light of Stephen Espinoza's recent comments that Ryan Garcia himself, Ryan Garcia, the fighter, does not have an exclusivity deal with DAZN directly, though that is where he boxes, that's where his fight's gonna be. And to that, DAZN executive Joe Markowski decided to chime in himself, saying, we don't do our business publicly, never have. In this case, an exception. Stephen Espinoza, respectfully, you are incorrect on this point. But per my emails, we want to make a fair deal with you for this fight. Please call or email me back, and let's discuss. Email me back. That means that Joe's already emailed Stephen in reference to this fight, and Stephen don't want to do the deal as long as DAZN is involved.
Of course not. He doesn't want to have to split the pot with them.
Stephen Espinoza says the tables have turned, but have they really? DAZN didn't have much luck getting any of Showtime's fighters to cross over, but Stephen hasn't had any luck getting DAZN's fighters to cross over. They made an offer to Jaime Munguia to come over and box Jermall Charlo, and
no dice.
DAZN wanted Jermall Charlo to come over to their side of things to fight Demetrius Andrade, and it didn't happen. You, in turn, wanted Jaime Munguia to come over to your side of things to box that same Jermall Charlo, and
no dice.
Jaime Munguia, comparatively, is not a bigger name than Ryan Garcia, so if you couldn't get Jaime to cross over, how are you going to get Ryan to cross over?
That's a legitimate question.